That live stream get up and going. Good morning. Those joining the chat this early: Christopher, Adam, Pat, Tom, Randall, Peter, Ed, John, Dave DeHunter, and Donnie. Good morning. And plenty others I'm sure will be piling in as well. It is Bishop on Air. Reminder, date certain soon. This live program each and every weekday morning going to America's Talking Network. So go check that out, America's Talking Network on YouTube. We'll still do Bishop on Air segments from time to time, maybe some mini documentaries, but big things ahead with America's Talking Network. So go like, subscribe there. A lot of Illinois news, a lot of news from all over the country, part of the Center Square, where you can go get even more headlines. Coming up with Illinois in Focus Daily, which is what this program is going to turn into eventually, at a date certain, could be soon. So be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell over at America's Talking Network. But we got to talk about, of course, yesterday's Supreme Court ruling. I chatted with Hannah Hill from the National Foundation for Gun Rights. Share that conversation. We'll also talk politics, presidential politics. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and other Democrat governors going over to the White House to meet with the president and his administration after concerns of the incumbent president's performance at a debate last week. Plus, Governor Pritzker signing another bill, and we got to review a separate one about turkey hunting. May have mischaracterized that yesterday in our review of 49 bills the governor signed, but we'll get some details on expanding the types of shotgun shells that can be used. So stay tuned. It's all on the way here. It's Bishop on Air. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell here, but also go over to America's Talking Network and like, subscribe there, because that's where we're going to be going next with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for hanging out. Illinois' gun ban remains in place, but gun rights advocates say the law's days are numbered. Welcome in. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop with the Center Square and America's Talking Network. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated with daily updates. And yesterday, big day at the U.S. Supreme Court. It was a cleanup day, but as you can see at thecentersquare.com, Illinois' gun ban remains in place, but rights advocates say the days are numbered. Yesterday, we reviewed the Supreme Court order, and this is on a case that several cases from the Southern District of Illinois and the Northern District of Illinois had different outcomes and preliminary injunctions. And these are just initial requests, not on the actual law itself. That remains back in the lower courts in the Southern District and the Northern District. And the Southern District has a bench trial set for September 16th. So that is going to proceed after yesterday. The U.S. Supreme Court, and specifically Justice Clarence Thomas, declined to take Illinois' challenge of the gun ban under consideration, essentially saying that it's not ripe yet. They don't have a final judgment yet. And that final judgment can only come from the district courts and then going up to the appeals court to be dealt with one way or the other. But Thomas was clear in his order yesterday that the Supreme Court is willing to take this case once there is final judgment, and even criticized the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals ruling that the state had a likelihood of winning this case, comparing AR-15s, commonly owned semi-automatic firearms, to being akin to militaristic type of firearms. So yesterday I connected with Hannah Hill from the National Foundation for Gun Rights, and she said that it was a mixed bag of a ruling that came out yesterday that essentially keeps Illinois' gun ban in place.
The Supreme Court did not say no to the issue, though. They said no to the procedure. They said no to where the cases are at procedurally. But Justice Thomas's statement made it very, very clear that they will be deciding an assault weapons ban case eventually, and that the Seventh Circuit got it really, really wrong. He used the term nonsensical, contrived, highly suspect. And he said outright, it is difficult to see how the Seventh Circuit could have concluded that the most widely owned semi-automatic rifles are not arms protected by the Second Amendment. Those are strong words from a Supreme Court justice. Seventh Circuit got it wrong. There's no doubt about that. We've said that all along. Justice Thomas echoed that. And the Seventh Circuit knows that. And Justice Thomas gave us all hope when he said that basically go through the merits. And if the Seventh Circuit remains obdurate, if they say the same thing, we're prepared to take the case. It's not an outright promise, but it's strongly signaling that. And we saw that echoed with how many times they relisted it. This case has gotten traction. We've been banging on the Supreme Court's doors on 3 separate occasions. All 3 occasions, we never got an immediate no, and we got some level of engagement from the justices. They've been watching the issue. They see the importance of the issue. They see the unconstitutionality of the ban. And we're confident that they will take a case and that they will rule correctly. They will strike down assault weapons bans when they finally do take that case. That said, it's very disappointing that they didn't take this one. I personally, obviously, as you know, we're the plaintiffs in one of those cases, we think that they should have taken this one. It doesn't make sense to us that when they see just how stubborn the lower courts are going to be over applying Bruen, the Seventh Circuit's ruling was not a good faith ruling. So when they see that, what does the procedure matter? That's where I differ from what the Supreme Court was communicating. There are times to say no on a procedural basis. I don't think this was one of those times, but I'm not a Supreme Court justice, so it's not my call.
So again, Hannah Hill with the National Foundation for Gun Rights, in my conversation with her yesterday, and that conversation came after we got a slew of responses from gun control advocates. They heralded the decision from yesterday. In particular, you've got John Schmidt from the Gun Violence Prevention PAC, GPAC, that said the Supreme Court action means the protection of Illinois citizens from assault weapons and large capacity magazines will remain in effect. That's good news for us all. You also have the likes of State Representative Bob Morgan, who made comments as well about this issue, and ultimately saying that it means weapons of war are going to be off the streets. Another gun control advocate, Yolanda Androzo, executive director of 1AIM Illinois, acknowledged that it keeps the ban in place, quote, at least for now. And she says further, as for the fighting over this law, it continues in district courts. We remain steadfast in our commitments to advocate for sensible gun control measures that safeguard our interests, Androzo said. Hannah Hill with the National Foundation for Gun Rights, I asked her if she feels that they understand the implications from Justice Thomas's comments about the law, who he said it was suspect, and even criticized the Seventh Circuit's ruling as to not falling in line with previous precedents. And Justice Thomas even went as far as to say it's clear that they need to make things more clear as to what types of firearms can be regulated. But Hannah's reaction to the comments from gun control groups.
So for them, a right delayed is a right denied. And so the temporary victory today is one they'll take. And that is something that the Supreme Court should have thought about. The Supreme Court should have realized that to say no on a procedural basis does delay the rights of Illinois citizens for at least another year. That's not okay. They've said that's not okay with other rights. And that is one of the reasons I disagree so strongly with their decision to say no today. Because yes, it was over a procedural ground, but the effect of the decision is to allow the Illinois government to continue trampling on the rights of its citizens. In no book is that okay. However, no, to answer your question, they didn't read the words of Justice Thomas, but they also don't care about the words of Justice Thomas. They don't care about the words of Bruen. We've seen that over and over and over again. Remember, the Illinois statewide gun ban passed after Bruen. If they cared about justices and what the Supreme Court has said and the rule of law, they would never have passed it in the first place. So that's why we have to outlast them, and we're prepared to do that. They know we're prepared to do that. So their victory lap is going to be very short-lived, and they know that as well.
And the timeline of all of this, obviously, rather fascinating, with the governor having signed this back in January of 2023, lawsuits filed shortly thereafter, going through the process on preliminary grounds with initial requests in the Southern District and the Northern District, different outcomes going to the appeals court siding with the state on those preliminary issues, and now the Supreme Court saying, listen, you got to get final judgment on this. So it's back to the Southern District of Illinois federal courts for four of those cases. Four of those cases have a bench trial set for September 16th down in East St. Louis with Judge Stephen McGlynn, who back in April of last year gave a preliminary injunction against the law that was ultimately overturned by the appeals court only 6 days later. But that gives you an indication of McGlynn's sentiment here, who's also said that he plans on moving forward expeditiously on the merits to get that final judgment. So a bench trial September 16th, but you've also got action up in the Northern District, and that's where Hannah Hill with the National Foundation for Gun Rights has the Bevis case. They're representing Robert Bevis from Law Weapons in that case, and that's in the Northern District courts. And actually, that's a case that was filed back in November of 2022 before the state of Illinois passed a gun ban. So Hill gives a bit of an overview of that case and a bunch of other cases with similar postures across the country.
Northern District. And if we had remember when we filed this case, it started with just Naperville because there was no statewide ban at the time. Naperville is in the Northern District. That's why we're there. That's why we're in an unfriendly court. With a statewide ban, you have the option to bring it in the Northern District, the Central District, or the Southern District. So they rightly chose the Southern District as the friendliest venue. And that gives us options, right? Because we're challenging it in a variety of courts, even within the state of Illinois. So we're excited about how far ahead they are. We're going to continue fighting in the Northern District. And the Seventh Circuit is going to have to weigh in a second time, this time with the words of Justice Thomas ringing in their ears. And if they double down on this ruling, and honestly, I expect them to, I think the Seventh Circuit knew exactly where the Supreme Court was standing. And they signaled with that ruling that they don't care. They're not going to care now about this. So they are ripe for another smackdown, and we're happy to help deliver that when the time comes. So we'll keep fighting. We also have 5 other cases throughout the country in a variety of procedural standpoints. We have 2 in Colorado, one against the Colorado magazine ban, another against an assault weapons ban. Both of those are going through the summary judgment phase right now. And we hope to have at least one of those in front of the 10th Circuit this summer. That's our hope, certainly by the fall. And so you have those cases. You have two cases before the Ninth Circuit right now in California. You have the Fourth Circuit case currently. Both the Ninth Circuit and the Fourth Circuit, both of those have had oral arguments, and we're waiting for a ruling on those. So it depends on how much they're going to slow roll them. Then you have our Colorado case currently at district court, heading soon for the 10th Circuit. So we have vehicles to challenge this policy, prepared to go to the Supreme Court, hopefully within the next year. And if Illinois doesn't beat us back, if the Seventh Circuit doesn't go back to the Supreme Court, then one of those hopefully will be the vehicle that the Supreme Court uses to say that gun bans are unconstitutional.
So we, of course, will be watching all of this as to the trajectory, where it goes, and who's going to have the first case to actually fully get to the U.S. Supreme Court. Could it be an Illinois case? It's obviously something we'll continue to monitor. And like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Illinois in Focus Daily here with the Center Square and America's Talking Network. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And when it comes to the state's defense of this, Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul said he will vigorously defend the gun ban's constitutionality. He says that the law is an important part of what must be a multifaceted approach to addressing gun violence, and I'm pleased it remains in effect in Illinois. But of course, defending this law is going to cost Illinois taxpayers as well. We'll have to do a deep dive into just how much it's cost taxpayers to defend this. So like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for hanging out with us each and every weekday morning. Governors from across the country heading to Washington, D.C., including Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, to sit down with President Joe Biden after last week's alarming, what is being characterized as a devastating night for the incumbent president in a debate against former President Donald Trump. It is Illinois in Focus Daily with America's Talking Network. I'm Greg Bishop. Thank you for being with us. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Obviously, the questions about the former president versus President Joe Biden in the debates where Biden had trouble finishing sentences and answering questions, but then the next day goes out and stands in front of a crowd for 20 minutes reading off a teleprompter and looked lively, and whether or not there's interesting questions about the president's mental cognition coming to surface with 50 minutes worth of Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday fielding question after question after question about not just the president's mental cognition. Apparently Hunter Biden, his son, who was recently convicted of a gun charge, is reportedly in some high-level meetings. So that's raising questions about what's happening there. Those reports obviously within, sourcing from within the White House, being reported by other outlets. But the questions persist. And even this question posed to Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday.
I'm going to ask something delicate, and you may not like it. The president may not like to hear it if he's watching, but I think the American people need to get a yes or no answer on this. Does President Biden, at 81 years old, have Alzheimer's, any form of dementia, or degenerative illness that would cause these sorts of lapses? And it's a yes or no question. And if you don't know, why don't you, as one of his senior staff members, know?
I have an answer for you. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
It's a no. And I hope you're asking the other guy the same exact question.
So
Okay.
that just is a small sampling of the back and forth that Karine Jean-Pierre had yesterday with members of the White House press corps. Governor J.B. Pritzker, he, after the debate, didn't name Biden, but said it's a stark contrast between a convicted felon being Donald Trump and the current administration. But apparently earlier this week, there was a phone call of Democratic governors who were asking questions amongst themselves. And now there's going to be a meeting at the White House today with Democratic governors, including Governor J.B. Pritzker. The governor was on CNN last night where he addressed what he wants to see in the conversation with President Joe Biden and what he wants to see Biden do more of.
Yeah, I think it's important for the president to talk to not just the leaders of the Democratic Party across the board, but generally the nation. And so I'd like to hear more from him, and I think that he intends to do more of that.
So the governor, again, in an interview with CNN, being asked what he wants to see, they talked about the governors having a phone call earlier this week, and now there's going to be this meeting face-to-face with the Democratic governors and President Joe Biden.
It was all, fairly positive conversation. People expressing themselves and of course, talking about, what they'd like to hear from the president, what they think the strategy ought to be going forward. And I think everybody wanted to be able to express that to the president directly. And that's why Governor Walz, who heads the Democratic Governors Association, asked for the opportunity, and the president was readily willing to do it.
So you've got Caitlin Collins from CNN asking these questions of Governor Pritzker, but that governor's meeting, previewing what to expect for this coming up meeting.
There's a healthy discussion going on within the Democratic Party. We're not a cult like the MAGA Republicans. We tolerate dissent, and we think it's good for democracy to have this conversation. And for me anyway, my word is my bond. I honor my commitments. Joe Biden is going to be our nominee unless he decides otherwise. And so I think that there's a healthy conversation that will happen with the president, I hope, expressing what he intends to do going forward in the campaign and reassuring everybody that this is the right course to make sure that we stay the course with him.
So we'll be monitoring what kind of public statements are made in this meeting. Will there be cameras that come in and see them all sitting around a desk? Will there be a news conference afterwards? We'll be watching that closely. But Pritzker was asked by CNN last night what he's hearing from other governors. Are other governors expressing what some other Democrats behind the scenes and even one at least publicly that the president needs to step aside?
They certainly were concerned about the debate performance, but they just want to make sure that this is the right direction and that the president reassures them. I have not heard any of the governors express that, he's not the right guy. It's just that I think there are questions that got raised by that debate. And hopefully that's just a one-off situation that the president can rectify by letting everybody know, once again, all the great things that he's done for working families across America.
And Pritzker, again, having these questions, reiterating what he wants to see President Joe Biden do to alleviate those concerns. It's not just from Democrat insiders being reported, but from the American public, with polling showing that people are worried about President Biden's age.
I'd like to see more. There's no doubt about it. I think that more calls should be made to people, more public appearances, more opportunity for reporters to see him and hear him. He's one of the most experienced people that's ever held the job. And he needs to remind people of that. And the only way to do that is to get out there, answer questions, and communicate to everyone.
And again, Governor Pritzker on CNN last night with those comments. The president does have an ABC interview he's going to do with George Stephanopoulos Friday. He's also got a couple of other events he's going to be attending and doing a stand-up press conference sometime next week whenever members of NATO end up coming into Washington, D.C. for a meeting. It's the 75th anniversary of NATO. So will that be enough? How is he going to perform there? Will it alleviate the concerns that have been widely reported by media across the political spectrum We'll be watching that. Of course, with the Democratic National Convention up in Chicago, likely the Center Square is there on the ground covering. We do have plans in place to be at the Republican National Convention to cover that as well. So be sure to go to thecentersquare.com, subscribe to the newsletter, and subscribe, hit that notification bell with America's Talking Network, and stay up to date as we keep you posted on what's going on with the political campaigns heading into November. All right, Illinois in Focus Daily. Subscribe, hit that notification bell with America's Talking Network. Subscribe to the newsletter at thecentersquare.com. Again, we'll be at the Republican National Convention, likely as plans continue to surface for the Democratic National Convention. We've got press credentials there as well. So again, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join us each and every weekday morning for Illinois in Focus Daily. There are more than 420 bills remaining on Governor J.B. Pritzker's desk as he enacts several this week. We talked yesterday about 49 of them he signed. We'll touch back on one of those, dealing with what types of shotgun shells you can use as a turkey hunter. But yesterday, the governor signing the medical debt forgiveness bill into law. And this is a measure that he talked about back in February during the budget address, saying that he wants to use $10 million of state taxpayer funds to work with a nonprofit to then go out and pay off $1 billion of medical debt. So essentially they're saying they can pay off $1 billion of medical debt with $10 million of state tax money. Governor Pritzker talked about this several months ago at a news conference and the importance, he said, of alleviating medical debt for individuals in the state of Illinois.
As many of you know, healthcare debt is a uniquely American issue. We want the best and safest options. We want a fair shot at a healthy life. But after the care ends for that circumstance, many walk away with unexpected pain. Not only the emotional and physical toll of the crisis that they've been through, but a serious financial toll, too. Too many patients leave hospitals with their credit ruined or at risk of bankruptcy in the ensuing months, often through no fault of their own. And here in Illinois, 14% of our population has medical debt in default. On top of that, we see significant racial disparities, with nearly 20% of communities of color in Illinois experiencing extreme medical debt. It's preventing individuals and families from attaining financial stability, and research shows it's also having day-to-day impacts for all the affected individuals, like emotional distress and difficulty meeting basic needs.
But there was a recent study that questioned that, and the reporting that we did several months ago about this, that research study said that there wasn't really much of a noticeable impact in credit scores or mental health of those who had medical debt relief. When I chatted with State Representative Dan Calkins, back in the Capitol, I believe this was back in April, he highlighted the concerns there are that this isn't really going to provide the amount of relief that the governor and other supporters of this idea have.
The research is factual. The governor is trying to pander. I know he's still interested in a political career outside of Illinois, and this is just another one of those Democrat talking points. We'll forgive everybody's debt if you vote for me. It's not going to work. This isn't the right answer. And you're correct. It does not solve your credit problems nor does it really address the mental health issues that we have.
So again, Calkins being asked about that a couple of months ago. Even the governor, when he was talking about alleviating medical debt, was asked about that study, questioning the benefits of alleviating medical debt.
First of all, that study was done, as you know, in 2018, 2019, 2020. And a lot has changed. As I mentioned earlier in my remarks, the organization Undo Medical Debt has done a lot to change their program. They started out as a startup back in 2014 and got going really more significantly in 2016. And then as the pandemic hit, there was even more opportunity and different ways in which you could alleviate medical debt for people. And so now here we are in 2024. The program has evolved even more. So I think the results of that are not indicative of, for example, the results of the research that's been done since then.
So again, the governor reacting to the recent research and seeming to downplay that. But that's a bill that he signed yesterday. Just announced it in a news release through email saying, hey, this medical debt relief has been signed. He also signed a measure that essentially says you can't use medical debt on a credit report of some kind. So those are just two of more than 400 and some odd 45 bills or so that the legislature passed. The governor's working his way through those. Earlier this week, we talked about 49 of those measures that the governor enacted. One of them I do want to get more clarity on, and our reporter Katrina Peterson delved into this deeper, and it deals with what kinds of shotgun shells you can use to hunt wild turkey. And the measure that we talked about briefly yesterday, getting some more clarity on that. In particular, what the bill ultimately does, it expands the types of shotgun shells that hunters can use on turkeys. So Katrina connected with Josh Witowski, who is with the Outdoors organization, Illinois Federation for Outdoor Resources. And he talked about Senate Bill 2767, which ultimately expands the types of shells that could be used by turkey hunters.
It permits 410 shot to be added to the acceptable sizes of turkey shot available. And what this does is it expands hunting to those who want lower recoil. This expands the opportunities for youth hunting. It expands the opportunities for those who may be disabled, those who are elderly, those who just simply want less recoil when out hunting turkeys. It actually opens and makes hunting more accessible, and we're very much in favor of it. DNR came up with the legislative language, which any agency and any organization can come up with legislative language. They proposed it to several different outdoors groups as well as legislators, and everybody was in favor of this. So this law has now passed. It has gone through the actual lawmaking process because, well, one, this is state agency versus federal, but two.
So again, that's just some of what Josh Witowski had to say. It's actually expanding that. And, while we talked about the Chevron decision's impact on this, because what it also does, the measure doesn't just expand the types of shells you can use for hunting turkey. It also allows for the Department of Natural Resources, a state agency, to craft rules to further expand or restrict or however move forward with the types of shells that can be used in turkey hunting. The Chevron decision from the U.S. Supreme Court doesn't impact this, according to Witowski.
This is something that was actually passed via legislators. Our elected officials voted to make this happen. Everybody has been in favor of it. So we're looking forward to it being signed. Well, it was signed into law yesterday. So we're looking forward to it taking effect and expanding hunting to more groups.
Again, Josh Witowski with the organization, Illinois Federation for Outdoor Resources, talking about that law expanding the types of shells that can be used for turkey hunting. So gobble, gobble. Look at that. All right, it is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Programming notes, we will be off in celebration of Independence Day tomorrow. So that is, of course, Thursday. We'll be back at it, though, live Friday to wrap up the week and then prepare for another week of news. And also, in mid-July, we got the Republican National Convention, where we'll be on the ground reporting out as well. So like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, America's Talking Network, and you can find more at thecentersquare.com. This is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and stay up to date with what's going on in the land of Lincoln. All right. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell for America's Talking Network. We'll see you back here on the other side on Friday. Happy Independence Day to everybody. Appreciate your support, and we'll see you in the very near future here